Hello, Namaste. My name is GR Reddy. Welcome to this webinar. Here, what we're trying to do is to explain and share some of the experiences of HUSIS for last 20 years in terms of helping a lot of international companies into India. As today's topic suggests that it's hiring and managing remote teams in India. Now with the pandemic, remote teams have become a real reality, and the remote working has actually brought a lot of change in the way the companies operate, and also benefit from the kind of a cost effectiveness that they can actually operate from anywhere, you being in anywhere, but accessing the talent from anywhere. And India has got its own talent, and it's remotely available, and that is where HUSIS comes in picture to help these organizations who would like to build on their capabilities using the remote teams from India. At HUSIS, we have been spending more than 20 years in helping a lot of these companies who are coming into India, and we want to really put in some kind of a summary of our experiences through this webinar. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, so that we'll be able to answer to your questions during the session, or maybe after the session that you can. I have certain slides which will explain the steps. What are the things that we're going to discuss today? One, we're going to look at what is the India advantage. Why should you look at India as an advantage for you? And also, what a typical client journey that we have seen in India, especially the international companies when they are looking at the advantage of India and India's talent. And also, we will look at some kind of an employment landscape, what kind of an employment that exists in India. Also, what kind of compliance requirement in relation to the human resources within India. Also, we'll be talking about how to get the best talent, and what kind of a unique challenges which are very specific to India. That's what we realized, and we will spend some time on this as well, so that you are aware of these challenges and then able to find better ways of hiring a good talent for your company. Also, we will be spending some more time on how do you retain people. That means what makes the employees stick in India. What are the aspects that you need to really look at, which may be different from your own country, but definitely which will be useful for the India as an origin. And we will also spend a little more time on how a PEO operator who can enable your journey into this adventure that you're going to take, and the talent pool that you're going to access from India. Let's look at the India advantage. You all know that India has an exceptional youngest talent with 29 years of average age of 1.3 billion people. And also there is a very flexible workforce. Here, I think one of the very important thing is that people are willing to change. Their ability to change, ability to flex themselves as a workforce is very, very important. Also, it's a growing economy, and the internal consumption and economy is actually so huge with the kind of a growth that we are experiencing over past many years. Also, we have one of the diverse cultural diversity in the country. And you know how it comes from. It comes from 29 states, and there are more than 1652 mother tongues that people really speak. But there are 150 widely spoken languages across India, with about 22 official languages. But end of the day, we say it's one nation, right? So this is an advantage. The biggest advantage that you will find in India is the common language in which we are educated. Most of the population is English. And that's actually one of the best opportunity. And Hindi being a national language, it is widely spoken across the country. There are a lot of complex labor laws which have been existing from the British times in 1940s and 50s. But now government is trying to really change those and simplify very, very quickly. Let me just take you to an usual journey of a client. At stage one, typically an international company approaches users and we understand their needs and look at what are the best possible way to access the talent in India. And usually these companies will start with one employee or maybe 4 to 5 employees onboarding in the initial stage. This will give them an indication of how to employ people and how to manage them at the initial stage. Once the step is moved, they actually keep on adding more and more people based on the business advantage that they are going to get, for their own business back in their own country. And we also have built companies to a large numbers and at multiple locations. And with telecommuting being one of the very key aspects, the teams are not necessarily. Originally, in the last 5 to 6 years before pandemic, we used to have one location. The client used to ask one location and say, in this location, I need 20 people, or in this location, I need only 10 people. We're going to operate only from this city, like Hyderabad, Pune, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. So, however, with the pandemic, what happened is actually now there are people who spread across the country. Doesn't matter whether you have 5 people, they may be in 5 locations, or 20 people, they may be in 20 locations at the same time. And however, currently now we are managing one of the largest clients. One single client could be 120 people. Overall, we are currently managing about 1,500 people for various operations across the globe, who are from a startup to a large multinational organizations. At a stage 3, if the company would like to really look at eventually wanting to set up, now that they have enough experience of actually operating in India, they actually want to set up their own company. So in that case, what we do is we actually help transitioning the company by registering an organization and also transitioning all employees, all the employment contracts, everything that we transfer into the new entity. And we also manage the compliance and HR management, including payroll, for the new entity. So there is always a possibility of a client starting at 1%, maybe probably, but eventually setting up a company and managing themselves. We are able to help in the entire journey. So we not only help the small and mid-sized enterprises across the globe, but also the Fortune 100 companies in our list who wanted to have their own offshore setup. Okay, currently I think most of them are focusing on the AI and machine learning. These kind of things they're actually setting up outside of their country, and especially in India. So we'll be able to take through the journey of any client from stage 1 to stage 2, or there are some clients we are managing at stage 2 itself for last 10 years. So that means that maybe the company has decided that, no, we don't want to set up an organization, but I think this is something which is working well. I think we would like to continue to work. One of the advantage in this model is the cost effectiveness is so much that if you had outsourced it to any IT company back in India, compared to that cost that you're going to spend through your own setup using a PEO to manage your teams here, it will be at least 3 to 4 times cost effective from the point of view of a pure outsourcing of a business. So I think that's where the PEO business has actually really improved tremendously in the country. And Qsys being there for about last 20 years helping hundreds of companies in this model, and we are in a very right position. And we're going to bring in that experience right now in terms of giving you an insight of how to hire and how to manage the remote teams in India. Just look at some of the labor compliances from the employment point of view. If you see the employees here, mostly in the country, we are more used to a full-time workers. So we are 9 to 5 or a shift system, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3 of 8 hours each. And that's how we are used to for quite long. And there is an increasing number that has been happening over the last 5 to 6 years. However, it took lot of momentum in the last 1.5 years during the pandemic when the work from home has evolved. So that means there are a lot of temporary gig workers that are actually coming up as a nation in our country, which is actually accepted as an employment right now. Earlier, people used to think that if you're not a permanent worker, then I think you are not working. But now today, I think it's a great advantage. And also from a single location-based employment, there is a distributed workforce locations. So with the pandemic, what happened in India, suddenly somebody was employing, let's say 100 people in let's say one space like Bangalore. And suddenly with the pandemic, all the lockdown, people have spread across, went back to their homes. So that means all those people would have gone into different cities. And now I think that's how the distributed workforce, distributed locations have come into really effect due to the pandemic. And we are told that many of the companies are going to look at work from home or work from away from one particular location is going to be a pure reality in the future. Hence, I think the distributed workforce, distributed work locations are going to be the reality because of the good bandwidth that we have in the country. Of course, telecommuting is just increasing because whichever are the organizations who have an ability to manage their work remotely, I think most of them are preferring. And anybody who's wanting to look at India as an option, I think this is one of the biggest opportunity that you can track from anywhere in the world. Also, talent earlier, it was very tough for India that, where they wanted to work only in one particular city. And today, because they can work for any company who may be headquartered in the other city, but they can also work from the choice of the location. So it has become very, very lucrative, for people, and very happy to work, being at their home location, with a family, So I think it has really evolved as you don't have to commute too long, and which is saving loads of time, and which is actually getting really productive for the companies. At least on an average, an employee in India probably would travel for about 1.5 hours minimum, two ways. There are cases where it's 4 hours. So that means that 1.5 hours to 4 hours of time that they're saving to be able to be productive, productively giving that particular time to the company and the work. And most of the times the salary disbursement happens monthly. So we don't have a specific weekly payment or a fortnightly payment that way, but it is only monthly. Most of the cases that what we process is only monthly salary. The type of employment is which typically differs from a permanent, differs between 40 hours to 48 hours of work. We have companies who work for 5 days. We have companies who work for 6 days. Or there are companies who work for 24/7, but in shift systems, but following the 40 or 48 hours of work. And the temporary employments are typically the project-based or a time-bound. Whether is it a 3 months of employment or maybe a project duration of 6 months, depending on whatever. And also part-time has become very, very lucrative for people who have specific experience and they want to allocate certain amount of time in their life for the part-time job. I think that's also really increasing. So probably every day, 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it is that they can spend late, or maybe 20 hours in a week or 24 hours in a week also is a possibility. And more importantly, if you look at when I said the youngest nation, the biggest opportunity that India has is in terms of the internships and apprenticeship, or maybe on the call working, because there are students who can actually spend a lot of time as an internship learning while they're actually doing a lot of studies, at the same time. So this is actually becoming very, very possible in this state. So this is about the employment landscape, typically how that you will find it in India. Next, I'll just move into very quickly a compliance part of it, that the compliance under Company Law 2013, the companies have to follow certain guidelines of the company law where it has been registered, and also a lot of labor laws across the country There some are specific to state, some are specific to central. So this is like a federal and a state. So both kind of compliances that are existing. One most important thing that any international company that must understand is that any payment that we make to the employees in India, tax obligation is of an employer. So that means whoever is actually paying the tax, they are responsible for deduction of tax at the source. That means whoever is paying, they are supposed to deduct the tax and pay the rest of the money. So most of the time that we found that international companies, when they deal with individuals directly, there is a risk. The risk is that you are paying directly the amount to the employee. It comes in directly to the employee. If the employee doesn't pay the tax, it will become an obligation for the employer. So this is where I think it is very important to be able to be compliant through via media solution, which could be a professional employer organization who could help you actually manage this complexity of income tax rules. The other mandatory laws are, one is the Provident Fund, which is like your 401k benefit in the US, which is a long-term benefit, which actually gives, after superannuation, it gives a kind of retiral benefits for the employee who contributed for at least for 5 years, minimum of 5 years if they contribute. Even with multiple employment, they will get actually a pension after the retirement age. And one of the most important thing, the employment insurance, Employee State Insurance Corporation, called ESIC, which is a medical insurance for workers whose salaries are less than 25,000 rupees per month in India. And everybody who draws less than 25,000 rupees will be under Employee State Insurance Corporation. And Employee State Insurance Corporation is a limitless insurance for the employee. Doesn't matter what salary that you earn, even if you are less salary, but they have a benefit of a card which actually helps you not only go to the ESIC hospitals, these are government-owned hospitals, but also if the treatment is not available in those hospitals, they will be able to refer to a private super specialty hospitals. We have cases, I can tell you a case, somebody who just have a 20,000 rupees salary, which may be, less than $500 of salary, but people got open heart surgeries, even actually much bigger, operations, which would have costed, in excess of, $5,000 to $10,000 or $20,000. So that is the best option that India has is in terms of Employee State Insurance Corporation. But however, people who are beyond 25,000 of salary, which is typically in an IT industry, the salaries are higher than that. So hence, in such case, there are private medical insurance, health insurance coverage that can happen. One that can happen for hospitalization. The companies can decide to the quantum that you wanted to give in terms of either a 5 lakhs or a 10 lakhs of coverage, or maybe 20 lakhs of a coverage, or also not only health benefits, but also the accident insurance. So there are both together. What happens is, if you're a smaller company, 1 or 2 people, the insurance becomes very difficult. But however, in the case of a PEO, the company would have been dealing with multiple vendors with the best prices. And the employees who are employed by the PEO within India for your talent, they will be under the insurance coverage. So this will actually add as a very good benefit, for the employees, so that there is an equal amount of opportunity of medical health and coverage is given in relation to the ESIC that is being provided to a low wage workers. The next most important is a professional tax. This is state-wise, each of them will actually levy certain professional tax for the salaried employees. So this differs from state to state based on their rules, and it is basically based on the slabs of the salary that one draws. So this is the compliance point of view. This is very important to be noted when you look at India as an opportunity. One of the important aspect is, once you actually paid these amounts to the government exchequers, we are also supposed to be submitting returns under various laws. Returns are nothing but that your compliance is submitted with the government, that you have complied with the law. And this is very important as a part of the compliance issue in India. So I will actually jump into the hiring of a talent, typically how you can actually hire a talent. One, what we noticed is some of the companies who would have outsourced their job to an Indian vendors, one of the vendors, IT vendors or any of the vendors initially. But over a period of time, they would like to transition. And this transition is one of the best way that the people who were working on your project could actually become your employees. So in such cases, the PEOs can actually manage transition of employment from the previous organization to this organization without a break in terms of their continuity of service as such. And also transitioning all the statutory complaints related to provident fund, related to insurance, and also the professional tax. Everything can be continued with the current vendor. Vendor, when I mean a PEO service provider, when you're picking up from the outsourced vendor to PEO vendor. The other is one of the most important aspect that you can look at it also is through your networking. You can hire most of the people through LinkedIn and also other tech platforms where you can actually source some good candidates. You can be in touch with them and check with them that if they are really willing to work with you. In such cases, you can actually do a selection process and then decide. This is a low to moderate cost, because if you're advertising on LinkedIn itself, you could do that, or also maybe on any other job boards that are existing in India, you can actually still do that as a search. This will be typically a low to moderate cost that will attract for you. The other most important thing, which is one of the best in terms of the cultural understanding of the country that they're coming from and working in India. Being an Indian, they understand the Indian culture, but because they have worked in the other countries, they also bring in the expertise of working here. So we call them as a returning India talent. So these are the returning Indians. Typically what is happening, the major trend that's happening out here, even for our country, for our a lot of Indian talent outside, the non-resident Indians, we call them NRIs. The non-resident Indians who wants to come back is typically between 30 and 45 years of age. Maybe they would have gone for their undergraduation or a post-graduation program, and they have started working there. They got married or settled down, but in 30 to 45 age, their aging parents are back in India, and they wanted to come back and help because I think India is mostly, if you find that it's a family-run kind of a culture, because we give more value to the family. I think that's where you will find, if you are able to find somebody in your country who is from India and then who wants to go back, we can tell you that's the most effective talent pool that we have found in our search. Somebody who returned from other countries and settled in India, they are the best resources who can actually help you manage or maybe build your teams here. We have cases where who came in as one person, but he would have built some 100 people operation within no time, and also replicating the exact values of the way the company that works there. So one of the ways that you can do is either you identified somebody and wanting to send him here, but also you identify somebody, let them work with you in your organization for a couple of months, so that they get used to the environment out there, and then they'll be able to create a better solution, better system when they come back to India. And this is by far, we feel, the most effective talent pool that you can hire for India. The other definitely is you can engage the hiring partners or consultants. The cost may be from moderate to a high cost, depending on whom you are hiring, whether it's a junior level of hiring or maybe a senior level of hiring. Again, it's a choice of yours in hiring, that there are certain companies who started hiring the first senior manager in the like a country manager for that company, and then the country manager actually contributed in terms of building the entire team around. Not necessary that will actually happens all the time, but there are cases where they started off with 1 or 2 people, they started interacting, they started learning about how to work with the remote teams in India and all that, and then after 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, the different companies have chosen to actually bring in certain manager, at a certain point of time. It is purely a business decision that you can take, but for these operations, you could engage any of the hiring or a consulting partners. The one more important, the low cost but highly effective solution is also a lot of hackathons, especially at an entry level to 1 year of experience level. If you really want to, attract a good talent, we could run the hackathons here. There are companies who are specialized who run hackathon based on a certain problem that you have given, and it could be from across the country, and a lot of talent pool. The millions of graduates who are on the colleges, millions of graduates who would have just passed out and looking for their first opportunity. Hackathons have been very, very effective for the technology hiring especially. So this is something that you may want to really look at, and your PO partner would be able to provide that kind of help and support in setting up such operations. And also not just only the talent which is in the metro cities, but we are really looking at a great trend now that the telecommuting is happening and different work locations are happening. The 2nd tier and 3rd tier cities in India are becoming more cost effective. In fact, in India, we have few unicorns who actually operate most of their employees from 2 tier and 3 tier cities, which are very, very unknown for years, but there is a great talent in these cities because most of the educational institutions are in the 2 tier and 3 tier cities. One is because of the cost of land and cost of construction and cost of setting up operations. So you will find a great talent in 2 tier and 3 tier cities, which could be attracted, and they are also very cost effective compared to the metro cities. That when you're hiring somebody in the metro city to a 2 tier and a 3 tier city, the salary range could be at least 20 to 30% difference for sure. And within metros itself in India, we have a difference from Hyderabad to Bangalore, Bangalore to Delhi, Delhi to Mumbai. There is a different set of costs in any case. But 2 tier and 3 tier cities, there are more number of people. And also one thing that you'll see a trend like how people are returning from other countries to India. There are people returning from major cities to their own towns, smaller towns where they have born and brought up, their families are there, their parents are there. So this is actually one of the most cost effective, and in terms of the cost of the employee and also sourcing and hiring also, it really helps. So there's one more which is very, very prominent is if you have the first employee or 2 employee, 3 employee you have employed, you could also take reference from them. This is actually most of the cost-effective solution, but you need to maintain a caution. We would like to say that we don't want you to make too many people from the similar kind of a background, and then it becomes monotonous, and your ability to flex the team will become very challenging. Or sometimes it's just a group behavior which we have noticed that it has negatively impacted some organizations. So that's why one of the very thing I have written there specifically is cost effective but needs caution. So you need to be very conscious in terms of hiring these people. But usually peer reference is one which is the most cost effective and the fastest way to hire talent in India. So that's about hiring a talent. But there are certain challenges which are very unique to India, which most of the time we have seen our international clients get frustrated the moment they see certain behaviors. So I'm going to share those few things which you need to take it with a pinch of salt so that you are aware that these are things that can happen. It is not an unusual thing in India at least. And definitely it may be unusual for many countries. We have seen in many countries that this may not happen. But I think in India, maybe because of the opportunities and the more number of opportunities, more number of people availability, there are certain challenges. I would like to share those with you. So one of the typical challenges is interview calls versus the interview ratio. So what we notice that in certain positions, I mean, this can vary based on the position and based on the skill that you are identifying. There is no standard rules here in this case. So there's one interview call. You call, let's say, 10 people. There could be a ratio of people who confirm that they will attend. So there could be a ratio of only 80% turnout, or maybe 70% turnout, or in some worst cases, only 30% turnout. So you should not be worried about such behavior. Maybe because now we have telecommuting, the interviews are not in physical form for various reasons. The ratio has improved. We would say now that maybe 80% of them will definitely attend an interview. You should not be worried that what happened to the rest of the 20% people who never bothered to respond. So you don't need to worry. That's a natural behavior, and maybe I think they are not rightly suited for you. So in such case, the next challenge after you interview, after making an offer, the joining ratio also is one of the biggest challenges that we notices. This ratio changes based on the economic condition and what's happening in the job market for us in India. So when there is a pandemic last year, with the first wave of pandemic, we found that the offer to joining ratios have been much higher. So otherwise, typically, if you make 3 offers, maybe 2 people join, or maybe 1 person join. You should not be worried that if only 1 person joins. But I think during the pandemic, it really has improved. But during the end of 2020, when things were settling down, I think the economy and job opportunities were increasing, and we suddenly found the ratios, toppled differently. There are 10 offers made, only 3 people join, or maybe 4 people join, or maybe 2 people join. Right now, in the second phase of the pandemic, this ratio may change. But it is not unusual that people who take in an offer, who may be trading that offer with another offer, because if they have a good skill, there are more number of recruiters are after their life. So everybody wanting to take the same person, everybody. So naturally, they get offer after offer after offer. So probably we have noticed that sometimes the people who have taken 3 offers and then joined eventually at the 4th offer. Or some people have taken 2-3 offers, but may have decided based on the advantages that they have seen and joined back the organization. So if they come back, it is lucky. But if they're trading, I think we should not be worried about those employees who are not joining with us. But one caution that we keep in hiring, especially the teams in India, is always if you have one position, you must have plan B, like the second person ready, so that in case if the first one misses by any chance, or the given date, if somebody doesn't join, take the second one and have the third one ready, of course, by the time you do a second one. So this way you are not impacting your schedules. And this is what we noticed whenever we advise the clients, when we initially tell them that why don't you have backup, then people wonder that why do you really even need it. The reason is the offer to joining ratio itself is low, and that's why we always suggest you should really look at things, because there are a lot of multiple offers, and also they based on the technology and based on the skills that they come with, and based on the demand in the market, this may change. And also many a times many of the international companies who ask us that okay, I'm going to pay X amount of money, but 60% is going to be fixed and 40% is going to be variable based on the future performance. This is something many a times it doesn't fly with many of the Indian employees. Most of the times they look at the high fixed base, very little, and literally sometimes people may not bother about the additional incentive that they get, except in sales. Sales, of course, has that rule, but I think other than sales, there are most of the places it's mostly high fixed base, and also some of the employees would always ask for a net salary. That means after the tax and after the deductions related to compliance, like the PF and ESIC or medical insurance or gratuity, professional tax, what is the net salary that I'm going to get? So people do ask that, okay, I need X amount of net salary to me. How do you manage your business? So one of the things that at QSys that we do is also help our clients to say, if you are looking at, this is the cost of the company that you are looking at, okay, let's find out, what will be the net salary, and then look at how the negotiation that can happen with the employee. So we are very, very flexible in terms of helping our clients to be able to get what they want, but at the same time, without feeling this as a challenge. So high fixed base expectation and net salary expectations are typically, some of the challenges that one will find, when you are hiring talent in India. The one more very important aspect is that they may be getting an X amount of salary, but they're actually taking up your salary. Typically, it will be double-digit percentage of salary. I just put it at double digit because it may vary from 10 to 80 or maybe to 90 also. So you should not be worried suddenly that, why is he expecting, this much percentage? It doesn't happen in our country. This is some of the typical, challenge that we find when we are helping our international clients. The expectation of an employee is that when he is anyway making it change, so why not I get actually higher salary so that I don't have to wait for another review time? Because review times, what happens is when he joins in, review time happens typically after 1 year. Most of the, in a common scenario, 1 year. So hence the expectation is, okay, let me get 20% minimum and onwards to 20, 30, 40%, whichever that happens. So these are some of the very, very unique things. And it is not only here in terms of hiring and selection, but also even during performance reviews, people do expect, depending on what is happening with the environment. Of course, during the last pandemic time, there are not many increments that have happened. But when the pandemic was just settling down, people started now expecting. I think in the last January, the employers were worried that, okay, now our people started coming and asking that, see, last year you have not given a review, okay? I am expecting, 30%, 40% this time, including this year. So it's not unusual. So just don't be worried about it. But how effectively, how perceivably that you manage their expectation is going to be very critical. So the partner who helps you to understand these complexities and helps you to transition are going to do a lot more good job and help you build your business for the future. So once this is done, I would like to spend some time on what makes them to stay. Now you have hired an employee, but how do you ensure that their longevity in the organization is a lot more? What we noticed, typically our average age of an employee in the organization way back in 2000 to 2010 used to be around 6 to 7 years of average age that they used to spend. But however, from 2010 to 2020, it has fallen down to 3 or 2.5 average time. So hence, I think it is very important to look at how they will stick to you, what makes them to stick, with the company. So we want to actually summarize some of the points that we learned here. There is so many things that we can explain, but I think I would like to just only present few of them here, which are very, very important, which are clearly summarized for your understanding. One thing that is very different from anywhere in the world is we do business for profit. However, the treatment of employees is always done as a family. It has been there as a family. Traditionally, over the last 50, 60 years, the businesses treat always the employees as family. And that is where you had a longevity of their in the organization. Like especially the manufacturing and engineering side and all that, which are traditionally brick and mortar companies, their average age is still, even till today, the average age could be upwards of 10 years. But the modern new age, like the e-commerce or technology and this has actually come down a bit. But in still, whenever a business person, whenever a CEO or whenever a founder looks at employees as a family, so it needs a personal touch when you're dealing with the resources. It's not about just the work. People do spend considerable amount of time in talking about personal things and also asking about their extended family. How's the parents, how are things there, what's happening, what family in the there's a marriage in the family, or what is happening. And so all these are very, very important. And also whenever there are festivals, I think if I have to put it in a different form, festivals are celebrated as team efforts. So probably they all come together and celebrate at offices. Right now, with remote, people are also celebrating, nicely dressed in a traditional fashion, coming up into a Zoom call and celebrating, singing, dancing, of course, everything that they are able to do. So whether it's a physical or in this thing, the celebrations of festival is one way of a cultural integration that happens in India. So this is something that it creates a connectivity to the company and the people that the employees are working with. So probably this is one of the most important things that you may want to consider when you're looking at working with Indian remote workers. In one of the recent cases, one of our clients from the US, they're a family-owned business there. And in fact, I've seen them in the US that there's such a family there. And exactly they wanted to replicate the same thing in India. They came personally and spent time with them, spent time with even actually going to their houses and spending some time with them just to create a kind of a bonding. And I can tell you the average age with that company has been much longer than any other companies that we notice. So this is something that maybe you wanted to really consider when you're looking at India, even if they are remote workers. Because if there is no connectivity, because that too you are very far away, from the resources, you have never met face to face. So it actually creates a good atmosphere if you are giving the personal touch to the employee. The other key for sticking in India is also that you need to also have a good manager. Okay, not all the technically sound people are managers. So you need to have a good manager who understands Indian workers, who is more assertive when it comes to work, but at the same time also follows the first point of a family, being a personal touch, looking beyond their work and giving that kind of a support to the employee. So this is very, very important for any successful business that would flourish in India. I would say the good manager is the most key for the success of your business. And also very important, the timely coverage of insurance, safeguarding the employee and also the family. So many times we get this query that our clients wants to hire somebody and then he says that, okay, now insurance, I want to cover my parents. So this is not unusual, which is very common. So in such cases, what we suggest our clients also is that, okay, what you can do is you can fix an amount of a floating insurance coverage, which means that 5 lakhs of rupees for a people of 3 or a family of 4, a family of 6, whatever it is, or 10 lakhs. And in some cases, we also found that the employer has given an option to the employee. An employee would actually pay little more money over and above what is being paid by the employer and gets a higher coverage also. So this is very important because the healthcare costs have become so costly that I think sometimes, especially during the pandemic, if somebody is in the hospital, probably people have been spending about $1,500 a day, or maybe $2,500 a day for a bed. So imagine, with such kind of a exorbitant cost, which you can't even imagine in your dreams, coverage of insurance is going to be very, very critical. And also in COVID time, we have actually negotiated with our insurance vendor, and we covered all the 1,500 employees under the COVID coverage. So even if there is a COVID impact, then it will be covered. So I think this is very, very important for them to create a safeguard, for them in this thing. So what I would continue as it is, but if you have any question, please do just drop in a question in the message box, and I'll be happy to answer. So the next very important is we are very happy with the smallest joys in life. So a small pat on back, a frequent appreciation of a good work really gives a lot of motivation to the employees. A good manager would do the same thing. He would appreciate definitely, and just a pat on the back, and have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, with them. Of course, in remote cases, it may be only just about appreciating in front of everybody, and that could be just enough actually. And then make sure that the appreciation is given for the right cause, and which is actually for a right good delivery, and that's very important. But this goes in a very long way in terms of motivating and helping employees to stick around, because they feel they are respected, they feel they are part of the family, they feel they are being safeguarded in terms of their family, and also they have a good environment to work. So these are all the combination of things that I've explained so far. And more important, you may want to spend some time in expressing their views frequently as possible. We have noticed in many cases that employees don't express freely. So as an employer, we need to create a platform for them to express themselves, either through a kind of a service. But again, service has very technical, and then it doesn't have the touch and feel. But probably in a smaller groups, people may open up. And in a larger group, generally, you will not find many people opening up, because it is a fear of a large group seeing. So you may look at an opportunity to, in a small team of a project team or maybe a functional team, you could ask for expressing their feelings and taking feedback from them. So this way, their contribution to the organization, they feel that they're actually much more closer to the organization, and the feeling of we are building the organization and I am part of this organization. So it creates that kind of a feeling to help them to retain the employees for much longer duration. The one more very important aspect that I would say is also a sticky point, how I would have actually noticed this. I have noticed in the airline industry. So if you're a pilot for a certain aircraft, certain design of aircraft, if there's a new upgraded version coming up, their motivation is always that, okay, from this aircraft to a next aircraft, will the company help me to train and then work on those, fly the next aircraft, which is higher. Okay, so I think it's the same thing. There has to be a continuous learning that people would love to, especially in the technology area, and also the cutting edge, new age technologies. So one of the things, my experience, what we have actually done is, even if the employee is not going to work on a future technology which you are not applying on your business, but however, you wanted to create some smaller little projects and give it to them to work on a new project. So that's another way of actually giving an experience for the people to learn new technologies. And if you are implementing the newer technologies into your business, there's nothing like it. We also have seen in some cases where the new technology was not adopted immediately, but the people have done little projects and all that. It has turned out to be that the company has adopted the new technology for their business sustenance. And we saw those organizations flourished beyond their normal life cycle. So this is another very important thing that people would always prefer, that they learning. They're continuously learning, being part of a great family, being part of a great culture, and being part of a good team that they are working with, and being part of a business that's actually helps employees to learn new things. A diverse experience, that is something that is maybe of very important. The most important thing that I'd like to touch once, on this is perceivable growth. As I said, India is definitely about family and the social impact. Uh, Always, I used to say, talk about this as HR is not about managing people in the company. HR is all about managing the perceptions beyond the employee. So that means, she works for about 8 hours, 10 hours in the company, but rest of the time they spend actually with the friends, family, back home. So we found that many a times their sticking to a company is also dependent on how their extended family or friends perceive that your job is. So hence, I think it's a pride of how he presents or how she presents to them is very important. So one of the perceivable growths is possibilities also in IT sector. We actually found that if you have a software engineer or a senior software engineer, then you have a manager and a senior manager, but there's something called an associate manager, a deputy manager. So these are it's not that you are actually in the same band. You may be giving a lot of different designations. So probably that also helps them to see they are growing continuously. Okay, one is definitely they need to grow from one level to the other level, contributing higher to the business, but at the same time also perceivable growth. Just have a look at that if you want to designate them very differently, and which will also create a lot of pride for themselves in terms of, okay, I am so and so as a designation, because it's all about a social system that we live in, and we can't negate it. We may not, in our own countries, we may have only 4 designations. After 20 years you still have the same designation, but probably for India you may have to really look at differently, that can you actually create some designations relating to the job, relating to the role that they play, and within the bands that you really want to work around to create a perceivable growth, real growth and also perceivable growth for the employees. So that's about what makes them to stick. I can say the most important thing that I'd like to touch on here is, how do you manage those remote workers now that you know how to make them to stick? But of course we are doing virtually, but at the same time, how a remote work management can be looked into. We're just looking about some few pointers for you to consider. There are many opportunities that we can express later, but within the short time I would like to just cover a couple of points here. One is making sure that they have the right infrastructure when they're working remotely. Either they are working in a co-working location, or they're working in an office that is designated that they will go every day, or at home that they're actually sitting there. So just making sure that the infrastructure is rightly maintained, so that the productivity of employee becomes really, really high. Productivity of the worker will become very high. The second is very important. If you feel that we have just given a job and they're going to manage and then they're going to deliver as an activity, I think that's you need to reconsider. A daily interaction, or the manager who's responsible should be able to help in planning of activities and a day closure activity. So there is one touch point of a plan for the day and day closure actually helps, especially the Indian workers who are working remotely. Also, create some kind of a tools that can enhance their productivity, and also give some kind of a self-monitoring tools for performance. That, let's say there are some ticketing tools that you may have, or maybe logging in tools that you may have. You log in a challenge, they're supposed to deliver at a particular point of time, but after a week's time you may want to really sit through with them to look at how they have performed in terms of their tasks. What is the time taken for solving certain problems? What is the time taken for completing certain tasks, etc. That will actually help quite a bit. Even though you may feel that it is spoon feeding or maybe sitting on their heads or something, but I think it has to be a really non-threatening way. But at the same time, these are very, very basic activities which are required for you to be getting maximum out of the Indian remote workers. The one more important point that you may want to get more out of them also is engage them in sharing their knowledge with the peer group. So there are certain times that you may wanted to ask them to come back and share what they have actually done, what their work related or maybe what their technology related, or maybe the learning that they have done during that week or during that quarter or whatever it is. Do some peer group kind of knowledge sessions. That way what happens is they also learn certain tricks of the trade in terms of managing themselves remotely. When you actually tell them this is what it is to learn, maybe directly it may not impact, but then when they actually sit in the group, the peer learning we have actually seen a lot more useful on the remote work environment, because somebody would have created some kind of a different mechanism of working, can be shared in the group, and then that becomes a tool for others to be more productive. Frequent group interaction and appreciation of work. So probably a review of the work as a group and appreciating some of the best works that have been done on a very regular basis will always help managing a remote worker effectively. One important thing which I actually mentioned here is you have to have a tighter work schedules and a bit of monitoring continuously, which helps, okay, which helps you reduce the long hours of work by the employee so that they have enough time for their work-life balance. Most of the times, the Indian workers, what the behavior is that, okay, since I have a time in my hand, I don't mind actually spending beyond 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours. Sometimes you find them working for 14 hours, but that may impact them on their work-life balance over a period of time. So it is always important to make sure that you ask for a delivery with a tighter work schedules, with a clear monitoring. That way, there's more productivity that we have seen in the Indian workers, and hence also help their work-life balance so that they have enough time to spend with their family. Here, you have to make a special effort actually. You have to be really asking that, are you spending enough time with your family? Are you spending enough time outside of your work while you're working remotely? This is very, very important, just to make sure that they don't extend the work and then put prolonging hours. And that's where your shorter work cycles will always help. So these are some of the points that I have to share with you on how the remote workers can be managed. There's one more slide I would like to really just quickly run through is what is a PO provider can do. The PO provider can help you in building and hiring solutions and hiring, and they also can help you in employment and infrastructure solutions. That means that if an employee needs an infrastructure, so nowadays we are using a lot of co-working spaces closer to their home so that they don't need to commute, but they are very, very effective. Everything is taken care of office so that they can focus on the work. And also employment clauses and employment letters, etc. Everything can be created. Payroll can be run for them. And also the expenses for reimbursement, and if some people have to travel, some people have to buy something, some people have to, there are a lot of travel expenses if they have to do. The expenses and reimbursement is also taken care. The employee taxation, especially the tax calculations and helping them in terms of filing their returns that they have actually deducting the tax, and also helping employees to file their returns. Employees also at the end of the year, they have to submit a filing that, yes, this much of my salary and this is what actually I have paid, and this is my form showing that my income and the taxes paid. So that's also taken care. The healthcare, the benefits with the PEO provider, definitely we don't have to mention that they get a pool of large quantity offers from the healthcare insurance providers, and also the services, which is very important, is that when there is a problem, how a CVO provider helps them to go to the hospital and manage is the most difficult task. And you have to be very careful in choosing the PEO provider who has seamlessly done the hospitalization and the reimbursement procedure with the insurance company and the hospital. And that's very, very important. Of course, the social benefit administration in terms of ESI, CPF, and rest of the rules. Sometimes, many times that international companies want the employees to come over and meet them in their own countries. So in such cases, the PO service provider provides the documentation which is required for the visa processor, etc. And also the exit management. Whenever there is a project exit or maybe a timely exit or maybe somebody resigns and goes, or sometimes we may have to terminate. So the PO provider can actually advise on a right process of an exit management. So this is a whole set of things that a PO provider can do. What is the client typically need to do is the client has to manage project management, the employees and their day-to-day activities. That's actually the client responsibility. And also ensuring that the funds are provided to the PO for processing the payroll on time. These are the only two things. And rest everything can be managed and helped by the PO provider. So that's all I have today. If you have any questions, you can ask, or please do reach out. We'll be happy to help. Our team works almost 18 hours of our Indian time. That means that can cover Australian time to US time, at least some part of the portion. So I would say always that I can always say at least 3 to 4 hours of any of these time zones that we will be able to cover. Just write to us at welcome-to-india@ucsys.com, or you can actually call the number that is provided here. That's all I have. Thank you so much. Namaste.